Hello everyone, and welcome to another English Grammar with Max. Today, we are going to talk about frequency adverbs with present simple, action and non-action verbs and how to use them, and present continuous for the future. Let's start with frequency adverbs. We often use frequency adverbs with present simple. Because, as we talked about it before, we use present simple to talk about something which happens on a regular basis. For example, I go to school every day. I exercise every week. So, we use frequency adverbs with present simple because frequency adverbs show the frequency of an action. Example: I usually wake up at 7. Another example: she never watches TV. In these examples, usually is your frequency adverb in here, and never is another frequency adverb. Other examples of frequency adverbs are always, sometimes, occasionally, normally, hardly ever, rarely, and some others. We said we use frequency adverbs with present simple. Now, where do we use them in a sentence? I'll give you 2 examples. They often go to the cinema together. Another example: she is always on time. Look at the frequency adverbs in these 2 examples. Often is your frequency adverb in the first one, and always in the second one. In here, go is your main verb, and we use frequency adverb before the main verb. But in this sentence, your main verb is a to-be verb. When your main verb is a to-be verb, we generally use frequency adverbs after the to-be verb. So, as a point, we use frequency adverbs before the main verb and after to-be verb. But remember, this is a general rule because we have some exceptions. For example, one of the frequency adverbs is sometimes. We can use sometimes in the beginning of the sentence. We could say, sometimes we go out together. Or we could use sometimes before the main verb. This is a general rule about frequency adverbs, but you need to remember that we also have exceptions. Now, let's talk about action and non-action verbs. In English, all verbs are divided into 2 groups: action verbs and non-action verbs. The difference is action verbs describe an action. Example: they are watching a film. Watching is your action verb in here because it involves an action. But non-action verbs, they describe a state, not an action. For example, she is a doctor. To be a doctor doesn't involve any action. It is just describing a state. She is a doctor, or they have a big house, or this car belongs to them. These are all non-action verbs because they don't involve any action. Sometimes we call non-action verbs state verbs. That is the reason because they always describe a state. Now, a few points about action and non-action verbs. And what is the difference between action and non-action verbs when it comes to practice? Point number one. We generally don't use non-action verbs with continuous tenses. Example, we say, I'm a teacher. We cannot say, I'm being a teacher. So, this is incorrect because to be in this example is a non-action verb. It is describing a state. So we generally, as a general rule, we don't use non-action verbs with continuous tenses like present continuous, future continuous, and all the other continuous tenses in English. Now, another point about action and non-action verbs. Sometimes a verb could be action or non-action, but with a difference in meaning. So, when a verb is action and sometimes is non-action, the meanings of this verb in these two situations are different. Now, take a look at these examples. He has a computer. She's having lunch. In here, he has a computer. Has is your main verb in this sentence, and it means possession. So whenever the verb have or to have means possession or to possess something, it is a non-action verb. But in here, have has a different meaning. It means to eat. She is eating lunch. She is having lunch. So that's why have in this example is an action verb. So as you can see, we are using it in the continuous form. But in here, has is a non-action verb. So we cannot use it with this meaning in the continuous form. Now, two more examples. She's a teacher. You're being rude. Again, we have the same verb in these two sentences. We have a to be verb here, is, and another to be verb here, are. But Actually, this are is your auxiliary verb, and this to be verb is your main verb. But I said before, we cannot use to be verb in the continuous form, because to be verb is a non-action verb. But the meaning of being in this sentence means it is behaving. You are being rude. It means you are behaving rude. So being in here is not a non-action verb anymore. It's an action verb, and as you can see, you can use it in continuous forms. But she is a teacher. This is a state verb. So as usual, we cannot, this is a state, this is non-action verb, and as usual, we cannot use it in continuous forms. Okay, now, let's talk about one of the differences between present simple and present continuous with two examples. I live in Australia. I'm living in Australia. Both of these examples are correct, but the meanings are slightly different. When you say I live in Australia, you are describing a permanent situation. But when we use continuous form, a present continuous form, like this one, I'm living in Australia, you are describing a temporary situation. It means I'm staying in Australia for a while, but I live in Australia. It means this is my home and I live here. So sometimes we use present simple to describe permanent situations and present continuous to describe temporary situations. Okay, let's talk about present continuous for the future. We can use present continuous to describe an arrangement in the future. Example: they are getting married in June, or I'm leaving tomorrow night. In June, this is for the future, and tomorrow night is also about the future, but we are using present continuous tense for these two examples. It means that whenever you have an arrangement in the future, not just a plan, not just an intention, it needs to be arranged. Okay. For example, the last point before we get to the exercises is about present simple. Sometimes present simple is used to tell a story or a joke. Example: a man goes to a bar and tells the bartender and the rest of the story. So yes, we use present simple generally to describe an action which happens on a regular basis. But sometimes when we are telling a joke or telling a story, you can see the use of present simple. Now, let's do some exercises together. These exercises are from the book Intermediate Language Practice. Let's do some exercises together. The first one is underline the correct sentence for each situation. You have two choices for each question. You can pause the video, write the answers, and I'm going to start explaining them in a few seconds. Okay, let's see. A. You want to invite a friend to your party on Friday. You say, I'm having a party on Friday. Do you want to come? We use present continuous for future because it's about an arrangement in the future. B. You find a wallet on your desk and ask the people nearby, who does this wallet belong to? Because belong is a non-action verb, and we generally don't use non-action verbs in continuous tenses. C. A friend invites you to a snack bar at lunchtime. You say, thanks, but I always go home. You only use always with present continuous when you are complaining about something, but in here you are merely stating a fact or something that happens on a regular basis, so we use present simple. D. A friend opens the door and says, what are you doing? You reply, I'm repairing the computer. So there is a difference between the sentence, what are you doing, and what do you do? When you ask, what do you do, you are asking about the person's job or profession. But when you ask, what are you doing, you mean what the person is doing at the moment of speaking, so we use present continuous. E. You haven't decided yet. Buying a new bike. You say, I'm thinking about it. When you use think, when you say, for example, that I think that movie was a good movie, in here you're expressing your opinion. But when by using think, you mean the action of thinking, we can use it in continuous form because it's going to be an action verb. F. A friend asks, do you like lemon tea? You reply, I prefer tea with milk, because this is just a fact. And prefer, you're expressing your opinion, so it is also a non-action verb. G. A friend asks you if you have finished the book she lent you. You say, sorry, I'm still reading it. As you might remember, one of the functions of present continuous is describing something which is going on at the moment of speaking. H. It's a hot day, but a friend has a heavy coat on. You ask, why are you wearing a heavy coat? When you're referring to someone's clothes, describing what someone is wearing, we use present continuous. Now, let's take a look at another exercise. Underline the correct word or phrase in each sentence. Again, you can pause the video, and I will start explaining the answers in a few seconds. Alright. A. That can't be right. I don't believe it. Because I don't believe it, believe in this sentence is a non-action verb. We use present simple. B. Caroline can't swim today. She has a cold. Has, or the verb to have, in here means possession, so it is a non-action verb. We cannot use the continuous form. C. See you in the morning. I'm leaving now. Present continuous for arrangements in the future. D. What do you do, or what are you doing? It means you are describing an action which is going on right now at the moment of speaking, so we use present continuous. We are not asking about a person's job or profession. E. Stop doing that, Bill. You are being very silly. Be is a state verb. If you are saying, for example, I am a teacher, she is a doctor. But in here, be means to behave, so it is an action verb. It means you're behaving very silly, so we could use it in the continuous form. F. I'm driving. You can sit in the back with Martin. I'm driving. It means that is an arrangement for the future. G. What are we eating this evening? I'm really hungry. Again, this is describing an arrangement in the future. H. You're a great cook. This cake tastes wonderful. Taste, in this example, is a non-action verb, so we use present simple. I. Where do you go, or where are you going, which is the correct answer. I haven't finished speaking to you. Where are you going? This is describing which is going on at the moment of speaking. J. Chemistry is hard. I don't understand, because understand in this sentence is a non-action verb because it doesn't involve any actions. Next exercise. Put each verb in brackets into the present simple or present continuous. Again, you may pause the video, write the answers, and I'm going to start explaining them in a few seconds. Alright, number 1. What do you usually do at the weekends? We are talking about something which happens on a regular basis, and we also have an adverb of frequency, usually, which indicates that you should use present simple. 2. Don't worry about the cat. He only eats once a day. Again, something which happens on a regular basis, present simple. 3. I can't work out the answer. It means I don't understand it. I cannot find the answer. Do you know what it is? Do you know? In here, know in this sentence is a non-action verb, so we use present simple. Number 4. What's the matter? Why are you staring at me like that? Describing something which is going on or something which is happening at the moment of speaking, so we use present continuous. Number 5. Do you speak English? Do you speak English? It means you have the ability of speaking English. So this is just describing a fact, so we use present simple. And speak also is a non-action verb in this sentence, because it is not referring to speak as the act of speaking, but the ability to speak a language. 6. Elena is staying with me while her house is being decorated. Again, sometimes we use present continuous to describe a temporary action, especially when it comes to work, live, and stay. Number 7. You should go on a diet. You are putting on weight. That you shouldn't be in parentheses. In there, the full answer is you are putting on weight. And because it is something which is happening, that person is gaining weight, so we could use present continuous. 8. They are, or it is a question. Are they speaking French or German? Like a group of people speaking in a language right now, so we use present continuous because it is describing something which is happening right now at the moment of speaking. Thank you for watching another episode of English Grammar with Max. I hope you liked it. If you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. See you next time.